In his past life, the man Song Jiu admired wholeheartedly only used her as a pawn to overthrow the entire Song family. The general's mansion was full of loyal soldiers, but they were schemed by traitors and never survived. Song Jiu died with hatred in his heart, unable to close his eyes. Reborn and returning to the past, the 100-year-old general's gate still has boundless glory. Song Jiu clenched her fists fiercely, and in this life, she fought to protect the entire Song family, calling on her in the previous life to plan against her. Even the enemies who betrayed her regretted coming to this world once. Xiao Qinghan said, "Miss Wu, we're not suitable. Let's call it a day for this marriage." Song Jiu. She has no intention of withdrawing from marriage in this lifetime. Not suitable. It's impossible, I'm versatile. Keywords of the novel. The prince's beloved concubine is both flirtatious and wild without pop-ups. The prince's beloved concubine is both flirtatious and wild. Download the complete set of TXT, and read the latest chapters on The Prince's Beloved Concubine is Both Flirtatious and Wild. Chapter 1001. Rebirth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1001. Rebirth. In the dark and damp dungeon, a woman's pleasant yet malicious voice rang out. "You are just a chess piece in your highness's hand. In order to eliminate the Song family and regain military power, I had to marry you. Now that the Song family has colluded with the enemy and betrayed the country, and your highness has been conferred the title of crown prince, your utilization value has come to an end. Do you really think your highness has a deep affection for you? Hee, you are really naive. Heroes saving the beauty is just a scene. I am the one his highness loves deeply. Thanks to you, brother Chun, I can have today, and I can become the crown princess and the future empress. I will personally send you on the road when you and I meet sisters. You should thank me for giving you a good time." The wind gently blew the soft smoke curtains on the carved bed, revealing the delicate and beautiful face of the young girl. Her tightly furrowed eyebrows were filled with thick fear and hatred, and her forehead was covered in cold sweat. It slid over her pale cheeks, making her even more charming. The wild laughter of the woman and the malicious corners of her mouth were constantly intertwined in Song Jiu's mind, as if the truth had cut her flesh and blood apart, causing her to be in excruciating pain. Ah! With a scream, Song Jiu opened his eyes and sat up abruptly from the bed. Tears hung on his pale yet beautiful face, making him look even more pitiful. But in the next moment, she was stunned as if someone had hit her with a heavy stick from the head. In the exquisitely decorated room, on the round table made of pear blossom wood, a teacup is still steaming hot. Various precious items are placed on the bogus shelf on the left side, the window is half open, and a few osmanthus flowers are inserted in the blue and white porcelain vase on the dressing table. The gentle breeze blows into the room, and the fragrance of osmanthus flowers fills the air. This is clearly her boudoir before getting married. Isn't she dead? How could he have returned to the general's mansion? The door was suddenly pushed open, followed by a surprised voice. "Miss, you're awake. Beautiful scenery, beautiful scenery. Go tell madam, Miss is awake." "Really, that's great. I'll go here. Miss, how do you feel? Do you still have a headache?" Song Jiu looked at Liang Chen walking towards her with great strides, her eyes full of disbelief. "Liang Chen. The servant is here, what does Miss want?" Liang Chen stood in front of the bed, looking at Song Jiu with concern. Just Song Jiu shouted and there was no further explanation. No one knew the shock in Song Jiu's heart at this moment, a absurd yet excited emotion spreading in her chest. Song Jiu lifted the blanket and ran to the bronze mirror. In the mirror, the girl's face was covered in tears, with a circle of white gauze wrapped around her forehead, but she still couldn't conceal her charming demeanor. She raised her hand and forcefully pinched her face, causing her to grin in pain, not in a dream. "So, have you really been reborn? I have been living with my maid since I was young, and I am still in the general's mansion. Her father, without a head, was beheaded and hung at the entrance of the city at the border between Daliang and the state of Jin. Her mother, who did not follow her father, hanged herself. Song Jiu stared at her reflection in the mirror with red eyes, laughing loudly, laughing laughingly, and crying bitterly. The resentment of her past life, the sorrow of her family's tragic death, and the ecstasy of being able to change everything after death. Liang Chen looked at the master who was crying and laughing, feeling at a loss in shock. "Jiu, my dear mother." With a voice, Song Jiu fell into a warm embrace and said, "You really scared my mother to death." Song Jiu was tightly held by Madame Song Fang, feeling a bit suffocated. However, this long-lost embrace made her crave it. "Mother." A soft murmur, with a hint of broken sorrow, made Fang's heart ache. "My daughter has been wronged to the extreme. Your father's ruthless thing, isn't it just a matter of quitting the marriage? He's actually taking action on his own daughter for the sake of an outsider. Don't be afraid, Jiu. My mother will make the decision for you. Divorce." Song Jiu's forehead hurt, and she immediately realized that she had been reborn back to the year of 15. "I didn't want to be bound by the marriage contract I made since I was young, and because I admired Shangguan Chun instead of him not getting married, I didn't want to be forced to leave. My father was very passionate and committed, so I refused to let go." In this argument, my father lost control and slapped her in the face. From childhood to adulthood, she was spoiled and even my parents couldn't bear to touch her, so I lost control of my emotions and rushed towards the pillar. Thinking of this, Song Jiu's mouth was filled with endless bitterness, and his heart was filled with unbearable pain. "Mom, first let go of Sister Wu, she's going to be out of breath." The voice of the speaker is very pleasant, like a gentle stream flowing into the heart. "I'm sorry, Jiu. Mom was too excited for a moment, did she hurt you?" Fang quickly released Song Jiu and apologized softly. Song Jiuhong shook her head with eyes in her eyes. "Although she is causing trouble for no reason, my mother has always been accustomed to her." Song Jiu's gaze turned towards the speaker. The woman's skin was as white as frost and snow, and her melon seed face had phoenix eyes that looked slightly charming. She was dignified and beautiful, exuding an unknown charm. This was her sister-in-law Chuyin, who had been married to her elder brother for 3 years and had a son. But in her past life, after her father's death in battle, she was taken to the enemy's camp and refused to be humiliated. She wiped her neck with a knife, and her 6-year-old nephew was thrown from a high city by the enemy and fell to death. As her gaze turned, she looked at the girl next to Chuyin again, and a strong hatred burst out in her eyes. Qi and blood surged, as if a layer of blood had covered her eyes. The sourness and sadness in her heart mixed together, almost bursting her heart. This bitch. In vain, he devoted all his heart and lungs to her, but in the end, he only raised an immature white-eyed wolf. Although the Song family had given her a place to live, he turned around and teamed up with Yan Qingyuan to harm the Song family. Before her death, Yan Qingyuan's malicious voice echoed in her mind. She said, "Your elder brother stole something and was beaten to death by someone on the street." The eldest son of the Song family, who was once stunning, was addicted to drugs with both literary and military skills. He died so shamelessly. It's a pity. Ah, do you know that the knife that was cut at Song Jing was done by the Crown Prince, and you, the Crown Prince, were also arrested by someone? She said, "Your second brother was killed on the battlefield by 10,000 arrows piercing through his heart. He didn't need to die, but the enemy took your second sister-in-law as a hostage. Oh, by the way, I heard she was already pregnant at that time. Those people wanted to see what the next generation of the Song family would look like and directly cut open her belly." She said, "And your third brother, he was nailed to the city wall with his own spear." Every word spoken by Yan Qingyuan was like an axe slashing into her brain, causing her excruciating pain. If it weren't for her wrong love and trust, how could the Song family have fallen to this point? She recklessly squanders her parents' love, tramples on the love of her siblings, and in the end, causes them to die tragically one by one. I am just a jerk. End of this chapter. Chapter 2002. Fourth Sister. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 3003. This relative, I won't quit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3003. This relative, I won't quit. Just now you said you went to find Xiao Qinghan to divorce. Song Jiu leaned against the bedside and asked. A few strands of hair hang casually on the shoulders, showing a more messy beauty. Although it looks pale and weak, her eyes are black and shiny. Did he agree? I don't know. Song Jiu pursed her lips and said, I used emotions and reasoning with him, but he didn't even fart from beginning to end. Song Jiu closed her eyes, her long eyelashes trembling with excessive emotional fluctuations. What appeared before her was the scene of Xiao Qinghan rushing towards her before she died, the fear in the man's eyes, and the heart-wrenching Jiu. Opening her eyes again, Song Jiu said in a cold voice, Fourth sister, tell your father that you won't withdraw from the marriage with the king of Yen. In her previous life, she withdrew from the marriage after waking up and causing another scene. In addition, her mother threatened her with committing suicide by hitting a pillar, and she cried, made a scene, and hung her father 3 times, which finally made him feel relieved. The request for a marriage decree from the emperor was made after retiring from marriage. In this life, she will never marry anyone again to the beast Shengguan. Okay. What are you saying? Song Jiu instinctively responded to Song Jiu's requests, but in the next moment, she regained her senses and looked at her incredulously. Jiu, are you okay? Did you feel confused? Song Jiu thought, reaching out to touch Song Jiu's forehead. Song Jiu didn't avoid it either, so she obediently leaned against the bedside. Ren Songyue touched her face for a long time before saying, Fourth sister, during these days of unconsciousness, I had a dream. In the dream, I successfully divorced the king of Yen and married Shengguan, but in the end, he killed me. Not only did he kill her, but he also killed her relatives. Song Jiu touched Song Jiu's thin and weak face with heartache and said, Don't be afraid, Jiu. It's just a dream, don't worry about it. As long as you like it, we will find a way to help you. Although Shengguan is the prince, our Song family is not bad either. Song Jiu closed his eyes, concealing the sadness in his eyes, and took Song Jiu's hand, saying softly, Perhaps this is a warning from heaven. Shengguan is not a good person, and my father is full of love and promises. How can I regret my marriage at will, and where will our general's mansion's century-long reputation be located? Moreover, I don't like Shengguan. Now, she only has boundless hatred towards this man and resentment of wanting to eat his flesh and drink his blood. She has been capricious for a lifetime, to the point of endangering the lives of her family. In this life, she will never make her father difficult again. For the sake of her rebellious daughter, she broke her promise to marry the old king of Yen and knelt down in front of the emperor with a thick face, exchanging his merits for the marriage of Shengguan. Ah! Song Jiu looked at Song Jiu in a daze and said, Don't you like it? She witnessed firsthand the admiration and persistence of Song Jiu towards Shengguan over the past few months. Why suddenly didn't she like him? My younger sister must not want to make my father difficult, that's why she said that. As a family member, how can I make my younger sister compromise? 9. Just as Song Jiu was about to speak to comfort her, Song Jiu interrupted her as if she knew what she was going to say. Fourth sister, I didn't compromise, I couldn't help but be strong, let alone ruin my brain. Song Jiu. I'm very clear-headed. Dad will be back soon. If fourth sister doesn't help me go tell Dad, then I'll go by myself. Song Jiu lifted the blanket and was about to get out of bed. "I'll go." Song Jiu pressed her down and said, "I'll go tell Dad how you're lying down. She is so crazy that she has to make her seriously injured sister run back and forth. What if the injury worsens? Jojo, have you figured it out?" "As long as you tell Dad, there's no room for maneuver," said Song Jiu. Based on her understanding of her father, Jojo was injured and unconscious, and his father felt both guilty and heartbroken. He would definitely not persist for long before compromising. However, if she conveyed the intention of not withdrawing from the relationship, she would regret it in the future and use this tactic of forcing him to death to be of no use. In response to Song Jiu, it was Song Jiu's unwavering gaze and heavy nodding. "Not refundable. Marry Xiao Qing Han in this lifetime." After drinking the medicine, Song Jiu leaned against the bedside to think about things. Hit the pillar, step back. So she was reborn at the age of 15, and now it's October. Although it wasn't before meeting Shangguan Chun, it was also good to be back before retiring. At least she had time to recover and make up for it. At this time, Dad was still a general with a heavy army in his hand, and the name of the god of killing shook the world. However, it was precisely this accumulated military achievements that made the emperor feel wary and secretly suppress them. Song Jiu took a deep breath. 5 years after the Song family's downfall, even if she were to break down to pieces, it would change the fate of the Song family. Now the Song family is harmonious and warm. Big brother Song Jing is still the talented and gorgeous young man with both literary and military skills. He is considered the best choice for a husband by countless wealthy families in the capital. He has been married to his childhood sweetheart Chuyin for 3 years and has a son who has just turned 1 year old. Song Heng, the second brother, has a cold face and a soft heart. He has just been engaged to Chen Luyao, the eldest daughter of the Marquis of Wuyang. Song Yan, the third brother, was like a runaway wild horse. At this time, he didn't understand the responsibility of protecting his family and country. He was a playboy of the Song family, but he was very kind to her sister. Later, he went to the battlefield and fought to the death to protect his family and country. What is despicable is that the Song family's son Lang fought tirelessly to protect the country, but in the end, he pushed them into the abyss. Song Jiu clenched his fists tightly on the blanket, his pitch-black eyes filled with towering hatred. The frost, like the cold winter of the 12th lunar month, hit the depths of a person's soul, as if freezing their blood. Since that's the case, let's not protect this country. I've seen the master, madam. The young lady is auspicious, the third young master is auspicious, the fourth young lady is auspicious, and the sixth young lady is auspicious. At this moment, the maid's greeting sounded outside the door. Song Jiu withdrew her thoughts and soon saw Song Sun walking towards her in big strides. A tall and handsome man with knife-like eyebrows and eyes, not angry or intimidating, exuding a cold and fierce aura of fighting on the battlefield all year round. At this moment, he furrowed his brows slightly, pursed his thin lips slightly, and looked indifferent and aloof. But Song Jiu's eyes instantly turned red and her fingertips trembled lightly. "Dad!" She murmured softly, and a wave of regret surged towards her, almost overwhelming her. Song Sun was originally worried about what his youngest daughter had done, but when he heard her weak "Dad," his whole heart was shattered and he immediately quickened his pace. "Be good, Dad was wrong. We shouldn't have forced you. Is it still painful?" Song Sun half bent over and reached out to touch the wound on Song Jiu's forehead, but was afraid of hurting her, so his hand stopped in mid-air. Song Yan watched as his aggressive father was suddenly extinguished and without warning, he lowered his head to admit his mistake. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. "Dad, why don't you pretend for a little longer?" Looking at my own sister's pale little face again, it was as pitiful as a small white flower blown by the strong wind, and I was immediately worried. Okay, he would immediately admit his mistake. Gu Genie didn't originally want to come, but when she heard Song Jiu say that Song Jiu wouldn't withdraw, she was curious about what kind of trouble Song Jiu was planning to make. So she thought about it and followed suit. She stood at the back, looking at Song Jiu, who was being pampered by her family, with an imperceptible envy and jealousy flashing in her eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 4004. One should not be capricious. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4004. One should not be capricious. Dad, Sister Wu won't blame you. She must have figured it out, otherwise she wouldn't have listened to you and won't withdraw from the marriage with the Prince of Yen, Gu Jini said softly. She wore a purple floral reunion skirt, with apricot eyes and willow eyebrows, a small and perky nose, and a cherry mouth like a blooming rose, beautiful and refined. Although Gu Jini is the adopted daughter of the Song family, her food, clothing, and daily necessities are similar to those of Song Jiu. Song Jiu, the two legitimate young ladies, are just like each other. Song Sun even made everyone in the mansion call her Miss Six. Song Jiu furrowed his eyes, but the thing that the Song family had nurtured with all their heart and lungs was actually a white-eyed wolf. She wished she could immediately kill Gu Jini, a despicable person, but she knew in her heart that she couldn't just tear her face apart from Gu Jini in such a straightforward manner. It would only make her distance from her father. Gu Jini's biological father was his father's deputy general who died on the battlefield to save her father. Song Sun was also a person of great love and righteousness, and this life-saving kindness was worth giving Gu Jini the best. The Gu family has a strong foundation, and with the care of Song Sun, the lives of Gu Jini's mother and daughter are not difficult. We don't want Vice General Gu to die. The other families of the Gu family joined forces to seize the Gu family's wealth. When Song Sun went to see them, he found out that Lady Gu had been forced to commit suicide by hanging a beam, and Gu Jini was driven out of the Gu family and stranded on the streets. Song Sun put in a lot of effort and finally found Gu Jini in the dilapidated temple. At that time, she was kicked out of the Gu family for more than half a month and was covered in dirt and a mess. Song Sun felt heartbroken and took her back to the Gu family, recognizing her as his adopted daughter. And the few houses of the Gu family that snatched away the family's wealth and forced Gu Jini's mother and daughter, Song Sun did not call them a good end. It was just that the Gu family's property was divided among several houses, and only 1/3 of it was finally taken back. Even if Song Sun adopted Gu Jini, he did not take possession of the Gu family's property, but gave it all to Gu Jini. When she got married in the future, the Song family would also buy her a dowry according to her status as the legitimate daughter. Jiu, is what your fourth sister said true? Song Sun heard Gu Jini's words and asked. That's why he came to Qinxiang Academy. After hearing his fourth daughter's words, Song Sun was shocked for a while. Subconsciously, he wondered if the fifth daughter had come up with another idea to achieve the goal of withdrawing from the marriage. So even if Song Jiu is certain, Song Sun will still come face to confirm with Song Jiu. Song Jiu's pitch-black gaze swept over Song Yan and Song Jiu from the Fong family, and finally landed on Song Sun's face. It's true. It used to be that his daughter didn't understand and worried his parents. The sixth prince is not a good person, and his daughter won't search for life for him anymore. He's not worth it. In this life, there is only one thing between her and Shangguan Chun. Never give up or die. Just as Song Jiu finished speaking, a warm sensation suddenly came from his cold forehead. I don't have a fever, why are you talking nonsense? The speaker was Song Yan, a handsome young man with peach blossom eyes fluttering on the fan, exuding a wild and charming charm. Song Jiu. She expressionlessly took Song Yan's hand and said, Third brother, I'm not talking nonsense. It shouldn't be. Song Yan rubbed his chin and said, Your private correspondence with the sixth prince. Third brother didn't help you deliver 100 letters, but there were also 70 or 80. This would say that the sixth prince is not worth it. Can you believe this? Sister, Be good, there are brothers around. If Dad dares to force you again, we will shave off his hair and beard. We can't bear this injustice. On the day when Wu Mei had a conflict with her father, none of the three brothers were in the mansion. If either of them were present, Jiu would not have an accident. Song Sun. So, is this my own? Although he has no beard, his hair is still very thick. Song Jiu couldn't help but twitch his lips as he listened to Song Yan's words. It was because she had done too much absurd things before that they didn't believe him. However, countless warm currents surged in my heart. She is not the only daughter of the Song family, but both her parents and three older brothers, including the fourth sister who is also a daughter, are obedient to her and have spoiled her to the heavens. Although her indifferent admiration for Shangguan Chun was not beneficial to the family, they only cared about whether she would be wronged. Third brother, come here and I'll tell you a secret. Song Jiu looked at the people in the room and waved at Song Yan. The secret between him and his fifth sister. Song Yan's eyes suddenly lit up, he opened Song Sun's seat, and sat bouncing by the bed. Fifth sister, you say, third brother will definitely keep it a secret and bring it into the coffin. Song Jiu. It's not necessary. She just doesn't want Gu Genie to hear it. Song Yan approached Song Jiu, and the light of gossip in his eyes almost blinded everyone. Song Jiu whispered a few words, and Song Yan's face suddenly changed. Song Yu tugged at her waist with both hands, her resentful gaze wishing to poke a few holes out of Song Yan. Ah! Jealousy. Why can third brother listen to Jiu's secret? She also wants to hear it. But she didn't dare to mention it, afraid that her sister, who was finally willing to be close to her, would despise her because of it. Gu Genie looked at Song Jiu with a surprised expression on her face. What's going on? Song Jiu relied on the love and affection of the Song family to do whatever she wanted, but never showed such an affectionate attitude towards anyone, because for her, it was only natural for the Song family to dote on her. What Gu Genie hates the most is the appearance of Song Jiu, who enjoys the love that others crave but never takes it seriously. She spent half a year flattering and pleasing, and finally made Song Jiu accept her. Compared to Song Yu, her relationship with Song Jiu is closer. But one day today, Song Jiu's gaze at her in the morning and the way she shared secrets with Song Yan at this moment made her feel a bit uneasy, as if something was slowly dragging away from her control. Gu Genie was thinking about something when he suddenly heard a bang sound and looked for a voice. Song Yan, with a face full of anger, pounded the bed with his fist and said, "Dad, since Jiu said he won't withdraw, then he won't withdraw. There are many royal affairs, and Jiu is innocent and not suitable." Fong was startled by his son and stared at him. "Stinky kid, why are you going crazy? You're not afraid to scare your sister." Oh, Jiu, I'm sorry, third brother didn't mean it." Song Yan instantly shrank his neck and turned his head to touch Song Jiu's head to soothe him. Cough. Song Sun coughed lightly and looked at Song Jiu with a serene expression. "Jiu and San Gu both have a little secret, Dad wants to know. I don't know what my daughter said to the third party, which made the third party's reaction so intense. If you don't leave, you won't leave. As for the fire that's going on, he really wants to know. Dad, it's just that I suddenly feel like my parents are so good to me. I shouldn't be stubborn. Perfunctory." Song Sun snorted and his heart was filled with sourness. But there was no further questioning. After all, little Cotton Coat has grown up and no longer likes to play coquettish with her father. Forget it, their sibling relationship is good, that's a good thing. Jiu, you can figure it out. Dad is very pleased. The marriage with Xiao Qinghan was personally arranged by him with the old Prince of Yan. At that time, the Prince of Yan's mansion was in a state of glory, but now it is declining, and he can't do such a thing as falling into a trap and hitting a stone. Besides, withdrawing from marriage would be a breach of trust towards an old friend. If he really did, it would be like an invisible slap slapping his face, making him feel ashamed. Jiu is sensible now, all for the sake of his father. Song Sun looked at Song Jiu with pity, feeling even more guilty towards him. End of this chapter. Chapter 5005. Itching without cleaning up the skin for a day. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5005. Itching without cleaning up the skin for a day. Song Jiu didn't know that Song Sun had added so much to his mind. Seeing that his marriage with Xiao Qinghan was stable, Song Sun showed a sweet smile, but coupled with her weak and pale face, it seemed somewhat forced. Fong was heartbroken and turned her head to stare at Song Sun. Song Sun had a childhood sweetheart with her, and he had never had a relationship with a concubine in all these years of marriage. The two of them had a deep marital relationship. So with just one glance from Fong, Song Sun knew what she was trying to say. So she immediately pulled the person away before she spoke. Jiu, please rest well, so my parents will leave first. Song Jiu nodded obediently. Song Sun quickly pulled Fong out of the room. Gu Jini glanced at the girl on the bed. Even though her face was pale as paper due to serious injuries, it still did not affect her stunning appearance. Her long eyelashes were slightly curled, casting a faint shadow over her eyes. She leaned quietly against the bedside, with a sense of desolation lingering around her, as if she was outside the mundane world, elusive and irresistible. Perhaps sensing Gu Jini's gaze, Song Jiu suddenly turned her head to look. The pitch-black pupils froze into ice, and with just one glance, Gu Jini's limbs became cold, his throat seemed to be choked, and his breathing stopped. Sister Lu, is there anything else I need to do? A light smile, curved eyes, no different from usual, as if the suffocation in that moment was Gu Jini's illusion. No, it's okay. Sister Wu, please rest assured and recover. I'll come see you again tomorrow. Gu Jini suppressed the strange feeling in her heart and smiled gently. Song Jiu. Okay. Outside the house. Fong shook off Song Sun's hand and angrily said, Song Sun, what do you mean by just watching Jiu suffer so helplessly? Your father doesn't hurt her, I do. Her 3 sons have rough skin and thick flesh, and the Song family is a family of generals and aristocrats, so Song Sun taught her sons to be strict. The Fong family would not interfere, but for her 2 daughters, the Fong family pampered them. And Song Jiu made her suffer to the bone. She followed Song Sun to the border and was pregnant with Song Jiu. The border conditions were difficult, and that year was also a year of war. Song Sun hesitated for a long time between sending Fong back to the capital and staying at the border. The enemy was watching closely, fearing that Fong Shi would be taken hostage on the way, so Song Sun finally decided to keep her by his side, at least to be able to keep an eye on her at all times. However, when she was 7 months pregnant, Fong had a miscarriage while evading the assassin, and the child was born prematurely. Although the border conditions were already difficult, Fong's pregnancy suffered a lot, and the child was difficult to give birth to. She was as big as a kitten and had weak breathing, let alone crying. Everyone thought that the child might not be able to live. Fong suffered from difficult childbirth and injured her body, making it difficult for her to conceive. Song Jiu was her last child, and because she suffered with her, her life was difficult. Before the age of 1, she suffered from various illnesses. If it weren't for returning to the capital, Song Jiu would have been unable to survive long ago. So the couple was filled with heartache and guilt towards Song Jiu, and they poured more love into her than Song Yu. The sons and daughters of the Song family were born to Fong. The brothers and sisters of a mother's compatriot were even more painful to Song Jiu. They wanted the stars instead of the moon. Madam, I can't help but feel pain for Jiu. Song Sun turned around as he spoke. Just saw the teasing expressions of Song Yan and others watching gossip. Song Yan. 4th sister, 6th sister, let's take a gamble. I'll bet for an hour, Song Jiu took out a 10-taels silver note from her pocket. Gu Genie pursed her lips and cast a shy look at Song Sun. She also took out 10 liang and said, I don't think my mother will be angry with my father. I bet my dad will still be sleeping in the study tonight. Song Yan arrogantly threw a 50-taels silver bill with a loud bang. Song Sun's brain twitched in a sudden manner. Song Yan, with so much leisure, go and chop off those few stones in the martial arts training ground. After a pause, he emphasized, hand chop. Stinky kid, if you don't tidy up for a day, your skin will itch. Upon hearing these words, Song Yan's handsome face immediately cracked and he said, Dad. Haha. It's no use calling Grandpa, I'm not going yet. Dare to bet on me, if you don't have a small whip to serve, just laugh quietly. Song Yan went to the martial arts training ground with a broken face. Your third brother is out of tune, don't follow him. What kind of bet are you making? Song Sun said with his hands behind his back in a warm voice. For his daughter, he has always been a kind father and will not be harsh. But I prefer Song Jiu a little more. Gu Genie glanced at Song Jiu and didn't dare to say anything. Song Jiu said, we are guessing how long my mother will be angry before she forgives my father. Song Sun frowned and said, He must have been too gentle with his sons, to the extent that several elder brothers were so lawless that they brought bad luck to their younger sisters. Fong looked at her two daughters speechlessly and said, the third one doesn't seem like a good person. You guys are also playing around and making fun of your parents. Song Jiu and Gu Genie looked at each other, revealing a guilty smile. Madam, don't worry about them, let's go. Song Sun led Fong and walked away. As he was about to leave the courtyard, he turned around and said, Jiuer's recovery is easy to think too much. Come and accompany Jiuer more in the next few days. Gu Genie nodded obediently and said, I will, Dad. Dad didn't say I would come to accompany Wu Mei, Song Jiu said. Today's fifth sister is so close to her, she needs to take advantage of the heat to further elevate this closeness. Lu Mei, I'll stay and have dinner with Jiuer. Do you want to come together? Song Jiu asked. Gu Genie glanced at Song Jiu's room and shook her head, saying, I don't have much appetite. Fourth sister and fifth sister can eat. I said I'm not feeling well in the morning. Have you invited a doctor to take a look? Song Jiu asked with concern. It's okay, fourth sister. I'm too worried because fifth sister got injured. Maybe it's because I haven't slept well these days, Gu Genie said. Song Jiu said, yes, Wu Mei really scared us all this time. Fortunately, she's fine. You go back and rest well. If you're really uncomfortable, don't hold back. You still need to ask a doctor. Xia Xijia cares. You're welcome, we're all family. Fong allowed Song Sun to take her away, but when she saw no one around, she stopped and angrily removed Song Sun's hand, saying, it was in front of the child just now. I couldn't bear to brush General's face. General, why didn't you follow Jiuer? Song Xuanxin's next, click. Damn it, we're all called generals now. Song Sun quickly followed Mao and said, Ah Su, as the saying goes, a big tree catches the wind. Our Song family is already prominent enough, and there is really no need to get involved with the prince anymore. Although there is no strong maternal support behind the sixth prince, if Jiuer really marries him, the Song family and he will be on the same boat. Song Sun didn't finish the rest, but Fong also understood. The sixth prince has no ambition to become an idle prince, but if he wants to compete for that seat, the Song family will not stand idly by for the sake of Jiuer. The struggle for imperial power is not so easy to participate in. What's more, the royal family is complicated and Jiuer is so simple that we can't beat her if we are bullied when we go to a place where people eat and don't spit out bones. Therefore, I would rather Jiuer hate me than suffer her later. Although the Yan royal residence has been ruined, she married to be the Princess Yan. She has the final say in the residence and the Song family protects her. Nobody dares to bully her. End of this chapter. 6, Chapter 6, 006. A scumbag, a lowly man, and a well-matched woman. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6006. A scumbag, a lowly man, and a well-matched woman. Besides, Jiu herself is unwilling to step down. How do you know that she hasn't really figured it out? She even said that the sixth prince is not a good person. As Song Sun spoke, he couldn't help but feel a hint of guilt in his heart. But to persuade Fong, whether his daughter really understood or took a step back and begged for perfection, he had to believe that Jiu had truly understood. Fong tightly pursed her lips, her beautiful eyes slightly narrowed, and the afterglow of the sunset shone on her, beautiful as poetry in painting. When I was young, I was a beautiful woman. Although the Song family had a big family, Song Sun did not have any concubines who were promiscuous, nor did he have any annoying illegitimate sons or daughters. For so many years, Song Sun had been in love with her, and apart from the hardships of being pregnant with Song Jiu, life has always been very smooth, to the extent that in middle age, she has added some charm and beauty is beyond measure. Because she dotes on Song Jiu, Fong is willing to give her anything. As Song's mother, she cannot ignore what Song Sun said. After a while, she lifted her head and a hint of sparkling light flashed in her pitch-black eyes. You're right, Jiu is innocent and not suitable for the sixth prince, she said. Upon hearing this, Song Sun breathed a sigh of relief. Well, in the future, he will double his kindness to Jiu and compensate her for this sacrifice for the Song family. Madam, you are truly understanding. Being able to marry you is a blessing that I have cultivated in my previous life. Fong blushed and glared at Song Sun, saying, the small kitchen has stewed chicken soup. Do you want to drink it? Drink, drink. Song Sun's eyes lit up for a moment, and he responded eagerly. At this moment, his wife handed over the steps. Why didn't he hurry down? Chen Xiang Yuan. Song Jiu couldn't bear the direct gaze of Song Yu, so she asked, fourth sister, what do you want to say? Song Yu. No, I'll just take a look at you. You can't ask, even if you ask Song Jiu, you may not necessarily tell her. Maybe you'll have to be angry with her, it's not worth the loss. It seems that Song Yu's inner thoughts are too straightforward, and Song Jiu can almost guess her expression. Do you want to know what I told third brother? Song Yu shook her head reflexively and said, I don't want to. Song Jiu chuckled lightly and said, I really don't want to know. Then I won't say it. Song Yu twisted the handkerchief in her hand and carefully glanced at Song Jiu, saying, actually, I was thinking a bit. I told my third brother that I accidentally saw him hugging Yan Qingyuan. These two people were already secretly colluding, but Shangguan Chun was still showing off his deep affection in front of me. I felt disgusted. Song Yu was stunned by the news, her pupils dilated and she couldn't concentrate for a while. Song Jiu remained silent and watched Song Yu quietly, letting her slowly digest the matter. In her previous life, she was kept secret until the collapse of the Song family, and only then did she know about their affair. Yan Qingyuan, this shameless thing, isn't she your handkerchief? Song Yu finally regained her voice and clenched her fists in anger, saying, he's actually bullying you. Wait, I'll take care of her now. Song Jiu stroked her forehead and grabbed Song Yu, who was about to charge out. She chuckled and said, fourth sister, don't be impulsive. Just tell third brother. That's why she just said it in front of everyone. If parents and older brothers find out, they might just go and tear up Shangguan Chun. Shangguan Chun no longer has power, he is also a prince. The emperor did not allow his courtiers to provoke the authority of the royal family. As for Gu Jini, if she knew, she would definitely tell Yan Qingyuan, and Shangguan Chun would also know. Song Jiu is not sure when the two of them hooked up, and the things he told Song Yan and Song Yu were just random rumors. If they become wary, how will they continue to play? Just let San Gu and Si Jie know, after all, if she really wants to do something, she still needs someone to help. A scumbag and a lowly woman, they are quite compatible, said Song Jiu. Song Jiu sat down again and angrily said, just let them go like this. I can't swallow this breath. Song Jiu. I can't swallow my breath. What kind of words are these? I won't let them go. Song Jiu's gaze drifted and he murmured softly. How could she easily let go of these people who betrayed her, given the bloody and painful lessons she earned with her life? Song Jiu heard her talking, but couldn't hear her clearly. Just as she was about to ask, she saw Yang Chen and Jing Jing carrying a tray into the room. The two of them placed the dishes one by one on the table. All of them are what Song Jiu loves to eat. Your miss hasn't recovered from her injury, are these dishes a bit too flavorful? Song Jiu asked. Yang Chen smiled and said, don't worry, Miss 4. My servant has prepared light vegetarian congee for Miss 5. Song Jiu. Just drink congee. It's really pathetic. Miss just woke up, it's not advisable to be too greasy. I'll make something else for her tomorrow, said Liang Chen. As she spoke, she carried a bowl of medicine and walked toward Song Jiu. Before I could get closer, I smelled a pungent medicinal smell and said, I've just drunk it, why do I still drink it? Liang Chen gently comforted and said, Miss, this is calming. The doctor said you are unstable and prone to nightmares. Song Jiu furrowed her brows, pinched her nose and lifted it up, feeling suffocated in one gulp. She has just been reborn and her mood is indeed unstable. Miss 4. At this moment, the maid next to Song Jiu walked into the room. She first bowed to Song Jiufu and then said to Song Jiu, Madam has stewed chicken soup. The general is now in the main courtyard. Song Jiu drinks congee and looks at Song Jiu's master and servant in doubt. She understands every word when separated. But how to connect them together, she doesn't quite understand that. Is it strange for Dad to be in the main courtyard? Mother stewed chicken soup, which time didn't Father run the fastest? Why is fourth sister's expression so indescribable? What's wrong? Song Jiu said, you asked your father not to withdraw. My mother may think you are trying to compromise and that your father is cruel, so she got angry. Just in your yard, I made a bet with my third brother and Jean E that when will my mother forgive my father. I'll bet for an hour, third brother will bet that Dad will sleep in the study tonight. Jean E said that Mom won't be angry with Dad. So, Jean E won. After Song Jiu finished speaking, she took out a 10-taels silver ticket from her purse and handed it to Falling Leaf. You go give it to Miss 6. By the way, don't forget to go to the martial arts training ground and ask third brother for 50 taels. I'm willing to give up. Yes, Miss 4th, Choi replied with a smile, then turn around and leave. Song Jiu looked at the back of Zhuye who had left, his eyes narrowed slightly, and his hand paused after drinking congee. Sis, Zhuye has followed you for many years. Song Jiu said, when she was 13 years old, her father arranged for her to be by my side. It has been 5 years since then. Yes, it's been 5 years. For so many years, the relationship between master and servant cannot compare to that of an adopted daughter. The Song family is an aristocratic family, so their children all learn martial arts. Song Jiu likes it and has been studying very seriously since childhood, with excellent skills. But she hates practicing martial arts because it's hard and tiring. After only a few days of learning, she doesn't want to do it anymore. She just plays coquettishly with her parents, and they don't force her to be happy. And around their brothers and sisters, their father will be accompanied by a servant and maidservant with good martial arts skills. There are many misspellings, making a lot of noise. End of this chapter. Chapter 7007. Why not cheap on her? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7007. Why not cheap on her? Her father loved her and arranged for her to have 2 maids who knew martial arts. However, She had a high self-esteem and believed that as a noble woman, she should be gentle and behave. Learning those martial arts was too vulgar, so she felt that Chaohua and Rushue would embarrass her and never like to bring people around, leaving them to be second-class maids in the Agarwood garden. And what my father arranged for Song Jiu was none other than falling leaves. Song Jiu was outgoing and generous towards the servants in the yard. She didn't show much airs in caring for them personally, but no one expected that in the end, it was the maid she trusted who betrayed her and helped Gu Genie climb onto her husband's bed. Just because Gu Genie promised to fall into the leaf, when she became the crown prince's consort, she let the crown prince take it as his concubine, enjoying glory, wealth, and honor. Song Jiu asked and didn't speak again. But in my heart, I thought, falling leaves, I can't stay. But she has been with Song Jiu for so long, and Song Jiu trusts her and has a friendship. Killing or selling her casually will only create a rift between herself and Song Jiu. Jueya is willing to die, but she can't ignore Song Jiu's sisters. At night, Song Jing returned from the military camp and visited Song Jiu at the Qinxiang Academy before returning to his own yard. Chu Yin took off his armor and asked with a smile, "Have you seen Sister Wu?" Well, Song Jing picked up the tea cup from the table and took a sip of tea. "I hurt my head. Although it's not a big deal, it's not a minor injury. I'm tired without saying a few words." Chu Yin hung the armor on the clothes rack and said with a heart-wrenching expression, "No, I've been in a coma these past few days, but I've worried my mother so much. I woke up this morning not long ago, and suddenly fainted in my mother's arms. This time, Wu Mei has really suffered. But I don't know if it's my illusion. After waking up today, Wu Mei's temperament has become much gentler and more sensible." Song Jing looked at Chu Yin in surprise and said, "What do you say?" Chu Yin said, "Haven't you heard of Xianggong? Today, Wu Mei told her father that she won't withdraw from the marriage with the king of Yen." "Did she really say that?" Song Jing said, "Isn't it a delaying strategy?" Upon hearing these words, Chu Yin smiled and glared at Song Jing. "Did you say that about your sister's big brother?" Song Jing. Conditioned reflex. "I think Wu Mei is serious," Chu Yin said. Song Jing frowned slightly and said, "If that's really the case, Jiuer might feel extremely uncomfortable in her heart. Go spend more time with her these 2 days and don't let her do anything foolish." Upon hearing this, Chu Yin's expression became solemn and she said, "I understand, Xianggong." The next day, with a warm breeze and swaying branches and leaves, sunlight poured into the room from outside the window, and the ground turned golden. Under the action of the sedative, Song Jiu did not dream all night and slept soundly. After Dr. He changed her medication, he carefully wrapped a bandage around her forehead before leaving. Liang Chen looked at Song Jiu with red eyes. "What's wrong? Who bullied you?" "The wound on the young lady's forehead is so deep that the servant is worried about leaving a scar. Even if the young lady no longer pursues the sixth prince, leaving scars in her family will always be affected." Song Jiu raised his hand and touched the injured area. "At that time, due to anger in my heart, when I collided with the pillar, my mind suddenly became hot and I used all my strength to collide. Don't worry, I won't." Song Jiu let go and comforted her little maid. Liang Chen seemed incredulous and said, "Really?" In her previous life, both her parents and 3 older brothers, including Shangguan Chun, spared no effort to help her find a way to eliminate scars. After all, he had put in a lot of effort to come to the Song family's marriage, and if his wife had a deformed appearance, it would be his face that would be ruined. Until 6 months later, a palace physician said that she had developed a scar-removing ointment. She used it for 3 months and indeed had no scars left. "That servant can rest assured," Liang Chen patted his chest and breathed a sigh of relief. Song Jiu thought about it, but suddenly her expression paused. In fact, the scar-removing ointment was not developed by Dr. Qi, but by someone else. Dr. Qi took advantage of his weakness and made that person willing to be his backup. His superb medical skills greatly tarnished Dr. Qi's reputation, and he was soon appointed as a medical officer by the emperor at the imperial hospital. But later on, due to the fluctuating medical skills of the imperial physician, the emperor discovered that something was not right. Upon closer examination, it was discovered that there was someone else with truly high medical skills. May the imperial physician commit the crime of deceiving the monarch, stealing the family and beheading. And those who truly have the ability to revive their skills are highly valued, as the hospital director of Rentai Hospital. I don't know if Wen Yuanlong was restrained by Dr. Qi at this time. It's better to give her a discount than to give the emperor a discount. Song Jiu was lost in thought and didn't even hear the greeting outside. She didn't come to her senses until the third person's voice rang out in the room. What catches the eye is a young girl of young age. Yan Qingyuan was wearing a family-style light blue skirt with a dense weave of begonia flowers. She wore a butterfly tassel hairpin on her head, exuding a gentle and charming aura like a orchid. Although her appearance is not as good as Song Jiu's, she exudes a fresh and refined temperament deep down. Song Jiu looked at the young girl slowly approaching her and narrowed her eyes slightly. "Jiuer, you've finally woken up." "I'm scared," Yan Qingyuan said. Her face was full of worry, with no visible flaws. It seems that only hypocritical people can attract each other. So the person that Shangguan Chun really likes is Yan Qingyuan. Because both of them are fake and have a dark heart. "Jiuer, what are you thinking?" Yan Qingyuan saw Song Jiu in a daze and waved her hand in front of her. "It's nothing," Song Jiu replied lightly. Yan Qingyuan saw that her face didn't look good and said, "I heard you compromised with Uncle Song and won't retreat from the Prince of Yan's marriage." "I heard about it so quickly, it seems that Gu Jini's speed in transmitting messages is quite fast." Song Jiu looked at Yan Qingyuan, with a huge vortex in her pitch-black eyes that seemed to suck people in. So. Qin Yenyuan didn't take Song Jiu's indifference to heart and urgently said, "Your Highness Lu has a deep affection for you. Aren't you letting his heart down by doing so?" Song Jiu's heart was filled with mockery. Shangguan Chun was so afraid that without her chess piece, he would not have the support of the Song family and would not have the chance to hold the position of crown prince. Yan Qingyuan is really her good sisters. Although she helped Shangguan Chunlai calculate her feelings, now she still has a simple expression on her face. Fake. 2 words stunned Yan Qingyuan. What? What's fake? Song Jiu pulled up the blanket on her body and looked at it with a smile. "Just stabilize my father's words for now. I'll have my own way in a while, and I'll need your help then." Liang Chen's pupils widened in surprise beside him. If it weren't for the rules engraved in his bones, he might have screamed uncontrollably. "Oh my! Oh my!" she just said. "Why did our young lady suddenly compromise?" Originally, there was still a bigger plan brewing. However, Yan Qingyuan felt a chill in Song Jiuxiao's heart, and the back of her neck felt cool. End of this chapter. Chapter 8008. Deceiving Her. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8008. Deceiving Her. Oh, okay. Okay. Yan Qingyuan forced out a smile and nodded, feeling a sudden thump in her heart for some reason. Song Jiu in front of her was clearly smiling, but it made her feel a strange feeling. Ah! Suddenly, Song Jiu covered his head and shouted, "Liang Chen, my head hurts so much." Upon hearing this, Liang Chen quickly suppressed his shock and said, "Miss, you must be tired from sitting for so long. Lie down and take a nap." As she spoke, she said to Yan Qingyuan again, "Miss Yan, my young lady's wound is not healed and I'm afraid she won't be able to entertain her." "I'm really sorry." Yan Qingyuan was taken aback for a moment, then stood up and smiled. "It's mine, isn't it? I just thought you would finally wake up and be eager to see you." "Jiuer, please take good care of your injuries and come find me to play when you're well. Okay, Song Jiu smiled slightly. I'll be looking for her soon, it's so fun. Liang Chen sent Yan Qingyuan out, and at the entrance of the Qinxiang Academy, Yan Qingyuan said, I can leave the mansion myself, you go take care of Jiu. Liang Chen blessed his body and said, Yes, Miss Yan, please walk slowly. Yan Qingyuan nodded and turned around to leave with her maid. Liang Chen returned to the room and looked at Song Jiu sitting up again, subconsciously swallowing his saliva. Have you left? Song Jiu asked. Liang Chen nodded and said, Miss Yan said she can leave the mansion herself, so she doesn't want to be sent away by servants. Song Jiu casually, oh, and didn't care. Liang Chen stared at Song Jiu with wide eyes for a moment. Song Jiu couldn't bear being stared at, so she asked, what's wrong? Liang Chen's heart skipped a beat and quickly reached out to cover his mouth, saying, Miss, don't worry, I will definitely not say anything. Who would have thought that her young lady appeared obedient and sensible on the surface, but secretly poked at something behind her back? If the general finds out, oh, their lives as servants are probably not guaranteed. But as a loyal servant, the first rule is to be loyal to your master. I hope Miss pities her and allows her to live an extra 2 years. Song Jiu looked at the little maid in front of her, her eyes staring like copper bells. Despite her nervous voice trembling, she firmly told herself to keep the secret, and her heart suddenly softened. Whether she was in her past life or before her rebirth, although she did not have the habit of abusing and scolding servants, she was not a gentle and easy to get along with master compared to Song Jiu and Gu Jini. However, even so, the maidservants who followed her were loyal. Perhaps some people may feel dissatisfied, but no one betrayed her until death. Lie to her. Song Jiu chuckled lightly, and the sunlight fell on her face, breaking into her eyes and spreading a layer of soft light, with a gentle expression between her eyebrows. Liang Chen was both amazed by the beauty of her young lady and couldn't help but be stunned by Song Jiu's words, unable to find his own voice. Mississippi. I have a saying, I don't know if I should ask or not. Song Jiu raised her eyebrows slightly and said, You ask. Liang Chen swallowed his saliva and brewed for a while before finally putting on a bold expression. To be honest with my servant, which of your words are true these past few days? It's easy for maids to understand. Song Jiu. She touched her chin and looked at Liang Chen thoughtfully. Just now, when she was shouting for a headache and actually asking Yan Qingyuan to leave, didn't Liang Chen understand quite quickly? How could he ask such a foolish question? Oh yes, yesterday she didn't hear anything about Liang Chen or Jing Jing from Song Jiu. What Yan Qingyuan said is false, everything else is true. Liang Chen's brain paused for a moment before quickly reacting. I understand. I understand. It took her all the courage to ask this question. As for why did the young lady deceive Miss Yan, she just needs to follow the master's instructions and act accordingly. When Yan Qingyuan passed by the garden, she saw Gu Jini standing in front of a peony flower, gently plucking its petals. Gu Jini, Yan Qingyuan shouted. Gu Jini turned around, her fair face shining brightly in the sunlight. She stood among the flowers, highlighting her elegance and grandeur. Hello, Sister Yan. Yan Qingyuan looked at the girl in front of her who was bowing softly, and her heart sank into a cold sneer. Gu Jini has learned the rules very well, and her words and actions are gentle and dignified. It is evident that she is working hard to integrate into the top elite female circle in the capital. Even if she becomes the daughter of the Song family, it cannot change her inherent fate as a mountain chicken. But now Gu Jini is useful to her. Yan Qingyuan affectionately approached and took Gu Jini's hand, saying, I was hesitating whether or not to go find you. Are you waiting for me specifically? Gu Jini nodded and said, Is Sister Yan trying to talk about Sister Wu? You just went to see her, did she explain why she didn't want to marry the sixth prince? Yan Qingyuan thought of Song Jiu's attitude and furrowed her eyebrows slightly. She said it's false. Let's stabilize General Song and Lady Song for now. After a while, she'll have a solution. She'll need my help then. Gu Genie was taken aback and said, is that what she said? Well, I can't say what's wrong. If that's really the case, then it's Song Jiu's style. It's not normal to not argue or make a fuss, Gu Genie said. Yan Qingyuan's heart became restless for a moment, but fortunately she didn't think about it anymore. I'll go back first. If Song Jiu tries to mess with any more demon moths, please let me know at any time. Okay, Gu Genie nodded in response. Yan Qingyuan was walking on the streets of the capital in a carriage, with lively noises in her ears. Suddenly, the carriage came to a stop. Through the curtain of the car window, she heard a beautiful voice like a spring in the mountains. How about it? Even with only 2 words, it can still bewitch people and make them tremble. Yan Qingyuan stabilized her mind and said in a cold voice, don't worry, Your Highness Lu. Song Jiu is just a strategy to slow down the situation. I'm afraid she has already figured out a solution. When she recovers from her injuries, she will withdraw from the engagement with the Prince of Yan and marry His Highness Qin and Jin. Upon hearing this, Shangguan Chun breathed a sigh of relief, realizing that he had overthought it. This way, he can rest assured. Song Jiu, that fool, indeed has a deep affection for him. If it weren't for trying to win over the Song family, he wouldn't have endured the disgust in his heart and acted in a romantic relationship with her. Thank you, Miss Yan. Shangguan said in a gentle voice, you know my thoughts. Your Highness's promise to you will never change. After speaking, he turned around and left. From the carriage stopping to Shangguan Chun leaving, the 2 of them only took a few breaths to speak. The wind blew and lifted the curtain. Yan Qingyuan turned her head and saw the handsome and upright figure in the distance. Her heart quickened a few times, but she quickly suppressed her. She took a gentle breath and threw away the allure that arose subconsciously in her mind. Among the many princes, the 6th prince's appearance is the most outstanding. Unfortunately, even though his appearance is exceptionally handsome, his identity as a palace maid is the biggest stumbling block on his path to becoming an emperor. End of this chapter. Chapter 9009. We still don't care about him. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9009. We still don't care about him. Shangguan Chun admired herself, which greatly satisfied Yan Qingyuan's vanity. Her heart was filled with joy. After all, this was the man Song Jiu was infatuated with. But she cannot marry Shangguan Chun. She is the eldest daughter of the first consort, the darling of heaven, with a noble status. A man who can match her should also be a leader in the world. Shangguan Chun once promised her that marrying Song Jiu was just a matter of power and friendship. When he used the power of the Song family to seize the crown prince's position, he retired Song Jiu and married her as the crown princess. Promises are good, but even with the support of the Song family, it would be too difficult for Shangguan Chun to become the crown prince. But it doesn't prevent her from helping Shangguan Chun deceive Song Jiu and marry him back. Perhaps, with such a 1 in 10,000 chance, Shangguan Chun succeeded. Go back to the mansion, Yan Qingyuan withdrew her gaze and said calmly. The carriage drove slowly, and the maid Biluo knelt on the side, pinching Yan Qingyuan's legs. She smiled and said, Miss, Your Highness Lu has a deep affection for you. Yan Qingyuan raised the corner of her mouth and lightly rebuked, don't talk nonsense. I only talk to Miss privately, and I won't spread it outside, said Biluo. Look at Miss Song Wu using all her skills to give a smile to His Highness Bo Lu. She looks like a clown jumping off a beam. Yan Qingyuan's face flashed with a mocking smile. If Song Jiu weren't a fool, I wouldn't want to associate with her. She boasts of her dignified and elegant demeanor, intelligence and orchid heart, and is proficient in every aspect of poetry, song, and prose. She is even more adept at playing chess, qin, calligraphy, and painting, and her parents are even more strict with her. Dad is the first assistant under one person and above 10,000 people. As his daughter, she should always remember her identity and not make any mistakes, afraid of being ridiculed by outsiders and causing shame to the family. Originally, she also thought that it was right for aristocratic families like them to value their sons and teach their daughters harshly. Until she accompanied her mother to the general's mansion for a banquet. She saw Song Jiu, who was spoiled by the Song family and his wife, and at the same age, she could act recklessly and throw tantrums at Lady Song. Lady Song not only remained calm, but also gently comforted her, following her in everything. But I have never spoiled my parents like this before. So, at a young age, she approached Song Jiu out of envy and liked to ask her about the little things she usually gets along with her parents. Several times, she tried to imitate Song Jiu's coquettish and noisy behavior, but in exchange, they punished her by saying she didn't understand the rules. Over time, Yan Qingyuan no longer envied Song Jiu, only with deep jealousy and disgust. But she did not stay away from Song Jiu because of this, but instead had closer interactions with her. In addition to being close to Song Jiu and being particularly affectionate to her by Lady Song, it was also because of Song Jiu's foolish and reckless existence that her excellence and uniqueness were more clearly highlighted. After all, they are all legitimate daughters of prestigious families, and their status is among the top in the prestigious women's circle in the capital. But Song Jiu was not good at socializing. Some people wanted to please and flatter her, but in the end, they all befriended her and became her own network. Song Jiu lay in bed for a few days, but couldn't stay any longer. Seeing that she was in good spirits, Fang Shi let her wander around the mansion. The Song family is an aristocratic family that does not like luxury. The layout of the mansion is mainly grand and stable, but the Fang family loves flowers. In order to please their beloved wife, the Song inspector deliberately demolished several courtyards and expanded the garden, planting various flowers in the garden. For this matter, Mrs. Song even had a tantrum, but in the end it was all in vain. Compared to her beloved wife, Mrs. Song's stepmother's opinion was not important anymore. Song Jiu sat down in the garden, and the maidservants immediately got busy. Soon, on the marble table in front of her, they boiled a pot of tea and placed exquisite dim sum. "Miss, are you tired? I'll give you a beating on your shoulder," Mei Jing asked. Liang Chen stood at the table, focused on brewing tea for Song Jiu. "Not tired," Song Jiu said. Watching the scene of blooming flowers in front of Song Jiu, the violent aura lingering in her chest gradually calmed down. She hasn't seen the scenery of Song Mansion for a long time. Liang Chen poured her a cup of tea, and just as he was about to drink it, a person rushed over from the thorn and snatched her cup. Song Jiu turned his head and saw Song Yan finish his drink in one gulp, then said to Liang Chen, "Another cup." "My third brother snatched her tea. Well, if you grab it, then grab it," Song Yan said and placed a brocade box in front of Song Jiu. "What is this?" Song Jiu asked. "Is it another gift from the group of people next door?" "This can be accepted." She didn't open it and gave a glance at the beautiful scenery, asking her to put it away. Song Yan had already finished his second cup of tea and sat next to Song Jiu, pointing to the brocade box and saying, "What good things can I give you from those petty people in the second room? Besides, didn't you ask them not to disturb you and recuperate? No one dares to approach you. This thing was just brought by the guards of the King of Yen, and my father is not here." "Do you know what he said when I saw it?" Upon hearing that it was something sent by Xiao Qinghan, Song Jiu's eyes flickered slightly and he asked, "What?" "That guy wants to step down with you." Song Yan gritted his teeth and vividly repeated the words of the guard. "I heard that Miss Wu intended to withdraw from the marriage, and my prince couldn't wait for General Song to come. So he guessed if General Song was in trouble. The Xiao family was defeated, and the prince knew he couldn't match Miss Song, let alone let General Song be difficult to do. Therefore, he ordered his subordinates to come and withdraw from the marriage. This was the original token of the engagement, and I also asked the Song family to return another jade pendant to the Xiao family. From then on, marriage and marriage have nothing to do with each other. Song Jiu was stunned. Xiao Qinghan surprisingly voluntarily withdrew from the marriage. Is the scene she saw before her death her illusion? Everything is her fantasy, imagining that she is loved by someone, rather than being betrayed by others. In an instant, Song Jiu felt a sour and piercing sensation in her heart. Song Yan couldn't bear to see Song Jiu's shocked appearance and quickly comforted him. "Jiu, don't be sad. There is nowhere to be found in the heavenly cliff. Xiao Qinghan has no other advantage except for his beautiful face. If you step down, then step down. We still don't want to marry him. Brother Ganming will find you a satisfactory husband who is 100 times better than him. Don't get angry with yourself." No, it's not. Even on the brink of death, she could still feel the warmth of Xiao Qinghan's embrace. The heart-wrenching sound of him calling out his name shook her heart and soul. "Good night, beautiful scenery, prepare a carriage." Song Jiu grabbed the brocade box on the table and suddenly stood up. Liang Chen was taken aback by the beautiful scenery and quickly went to arrange it. "Jiu, where are you going?" "Song Jiu. Prince Yan's mansion." Song Yan thought that Song Jiu was going to return the jade pendant, and quickly said, "It's just a small matter for me to help you deliver it. Your injury hasn't healed yet." "It's not a small matter." All right. You can go and return the things yourself, and explain it clearly in person to save trouble in the future. Third brother will accompany you." Song Jiu glanced at Song Yan and knew he had misunderstood, but he had no intention of explaining. She didn't go to divorce. End of this chapter. Chapter 10:10. She is not worth the prince's pain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10:10. She is not worth the prince's pain. As the most beloved daughter of the Song family, everything about Song Jiu is the best. Outside the gate, an exquisite and luxurious carriage stopped in front of the door, with a snow-white steed that Song Sun had painstakingly found for her. As soon as Song Jiu got into the carriage, Song Yan lifted the curtain and crawled in. "What if you go to the Yan prince's mansion alone without recovering from your injury and suffer losses?" "Miss Wu, you're right. Song Jiu. You don't need to explain so clearly. I clearly feel that you are more like going to watch the excitement." Prince Yan's mansion. The once glorious mansion of Luo Ke at the entrance is now completely desolate. 7 years ago, Minzhou fell, and the old king of Yan was defeated by improper military tactics, resulting in countless deaths and injuries. De Liang lost 7 cities in a row. Finally, Song Sun and the loyal and brave Marquis Zhou Kun brought troops from their respective garrisons to join forces in retreating from the enemy. It took 2 years for the city to be recaptured. The emperor was enraged as a result and severely punished the Xiao family, using confiscated family wealth as compensation to console the soldiers who died in battle. But because the old king of Yan had once made remarkable military achievements and did not deprive him of the throne. After the death of the old king of Yan, his eldest son inherited the title of king of Yan, and he became Xiao Qinghan. However, he only held the title of king of Yan and lived a miserable life without money. The population of the current Yan prince's mansion is simple. In addition to Xiao Qinghan, there is also the stepwife of the old Yan prince, as well as her son, daughter-in-law, and daughter. Most of the people dispersed 7 years ago, and the government cannot afford to support so many. The old Princess Qin is very ostentatious, so even if the household cannot make ends meet, she does not want to harm herself. Therefore, there are still 10 people around her to serve. However, the power of the household is in her hands, and Xiao Qinghan cannot control it. Moreover, when the Xiao family had an accident, he was only 13 years old and it was not his turn to take control. Half of the courtyards in the vast royal mansion were already vacant, and over time no one went to clean them. As the number of servants served decreased, the lords of the mansion moved to several courtyards in the east to save expenses. As a result, walking inside the Yen royal mansion, one would see the east side clean and tidy, with neatly trimmed flowers and trees. The scenery was not pleasant, but also beautiful. But other places are overgrown with weeds and almost no one steps on them. Xiao Qinghan lives in the front yard. Chang Xiao, dressed in graceful clothes, walked with great strides. He was one of the guards of the king of Yen. Mingyan, is the prince still in the study? He asked as he looked at Mingyan crouching on the porch with a resentful expression on his face. Mingyan, like Chang Xiao, was both the guards of the king of Yen and grew up with him from a young age. Well, Mingyan lifted a round doll face and let out a muffled voice from his throat, except for instructing you to withdraw from the Song family an hour ago, there has been no further sound. In fact, the prince has been locked up in the study since yesterday, for a day and a night, without eating or drinking. Until this morning, I called Chang Xiao in and handed him a brocade box, asking him to go to the Song family to withdraw. The prince is so foolish. Why did he take the initiative to step down? In my opinion, we should waste Miss Song Wu's time asking her to give our prince a green hat. Why do we want to make her and the sixth prince fly together? We won't step down and anger them, Mingyan said angrily. Chang Xiao gave Mingyan a silent glance and lightly rebuked, "Don't let the prince hear this." Mingyan let out a cold snort from his nose and stopped speaking. He has been following the prince with Chang Xiao for many years, and can be said to be the person who knows the prince the best in this royal mansion. Although the prince has been eagerly anticipating Miss Song Wu and her hairpin for so many years, how could he be willing to withdraw from this marriage? Isn't it just to fulfill her? Mingyan is not worth it for his own master. Why should his prince compromise, while Miss Song Wu can fulfill his wish? Chang Xiao understood Mingyan's resentment and let out a sigh, then lifted his leg and walked towards the study. He knocked on the door and shouted, "Prince." After waiting for a long time, Xiao Qinghan's voice inside said, "Come in." At this moment, his voice seemed to have been worn away by gravel, rough and harsh. Chang Xiao pushed the door open and walked in. In front of the desk, there was the slender figure of Xiao Qinghan, slightly hunched. Chang Xiao couldn't see his face, but he could tell the rustling aura around him. "I hereby inform the prince that I have met with the third prince of Song and have returned the engagement jade pendant to him. However, the jade pendant in Miss Wu's hand has not been received by the subordinate. The third prince said that it will be sent to the prince's mansion soon." Chang Xiao replied. Upon hearing this, Xiao Qinghan's 10 fingers slightly shrunk, and his chest suddenly felt empty. An endless cold wind swept in, piercing cold. Chang Xiao paused for a moment and then said, "Prince, you haven't eaten or drunk for a day and a night. You already have residual toxins in your body, how can you handle it if you continue like this?" Not long ago, the prince was ambushed and injured on the royal hunting ground, with poison on his sword. Fortunately, he did not get hurt to the point. The elimination of toxins in his body is not an overnight process, and he is peacefully recuperating. Suddenly, he learns that Song Jiu is causing a divorce, which has reached a point where he is forced to die. The prince's injuries have not healed yet and he has added new injuries. Xiao Qinghan. Forgive me for being talkative. There are so many women in the world, and there are even more gentle and kind than Miss Five. The prince doesn't need to worry about her, she's not worth it at all. Get out, Xiao Qinghan suddenly said coldly. Chang Xiao was startled in his heart and didn't dare to say much. He turned around and left. His words touched the master's scales. The carriage stopped at the entrance of the Yen prince's mansion. Song Jiu got off the car and looked up slightly. The plaque with the words, Yen Wang Mansion, written on it is worn out, and the paint on the door has also fallen off quite a bit. Song Yen stepped forward and knocked on the door. After waiting for a long time, someone opened the door. The door is not the main one, but the small one on the side. The Yen prince's mansion suffered a defeat and was scolded by the emperor. The people had long lost their reverence for the Shao family, and the nobles in the capital avoided it and would not visit them. Therefore, the gate of the Yen prince's mansion has almost become a decoration, and there is no need to open it now. Not to mention that the current Yen prince's mansion does not have the extra silver money to hold a banquet. Even if it were to be held, the number of guests could be counted with just 5 fingers. End of this chapter.